Good afternoon, Mohamed.
Good afternoon, Tudor.
All right, perfect.
How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Excellent. I think people are starting to come in. Not sure if we should wait for a couple of more minutes, see if anyone else is joining us. People are starting to come in.
Let's wait.
All right, just one quick minute. I will start sharing my screen. I have a few slides prepared for today. All right, people are still coming in slowly. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, people still coming in. Okay. Thank you very much to everyone who took the time to join us today for this short, but we hope informative and useful session about language and communication in the workplace post-COVID. We don't know if it's too early to talk about it post-COVID because, as we all know, COVID is still here, is still happening. But we will try to have a very entertaining session today. We'll try to exchange some ideas, to observe some best practices that are happening in various corporate environments today. My name is Tudor, and I'm here with my colleague Mohamed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mohamed Atawneh. And I'm a business learning success partner at Eton Institute.
Now, I think it's a good way to start this program. This webinar will be to have a short introduction about us. I am the Director of Corporate Sales here at Eton Institute. I'll go through a very brief structure of the webinar. So after the introductions, we're going to exchange some ideas and share some opinions and best practices for about 20 to maybe 30 minutes. We'll share some conclusions based on our findings, and towards the end, we'll switch to a Q&A session. I know many of you have very pertinent questions, and I'm really looking forward to answer them. I think a lot of you may know what we do and who we are. In a nutshell, we're the largest language institute in the Middle East, certainly in the UAE, with 2 campuses between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Where we have around 40 classrooms. This makes for half of our business. The other half, the unseen half, and I say the interesting one, is where we send instructors outside of the institute for assignments in organizations, in companies, in universities across the UAE, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, and everywhere in between. And this puts me and Mohamed in a unique position to observe these set of behaviors, I would call them, that have impacted pretty much any organization in the UAE since the unfortunate arrival of the COVID pandemic. Now, why is language and communication important in the region? I think this ties into every organization in the Middle East. Anywhere you go, in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, anywhere you work, any job you have, you will have to communicate one way or another. And there have been some changes since March, since the lockdown. We've seen a lot of changes in our clients, which we're happy to share with you, the reason why we're having this presentation. We're going to go through the transition of training delivery, and not only training delivery, but also content delivery in corporate settings, from a live environment, from face-to-face interactions, into virtual environments. So you have Zoom, you have WebEx, you have Microsoft Teams. I think it's a very interesting place to have this webinar, and a very interesting time, because whenever we're talking about the Middle East, we're talking about a melting pot of cultures. The UAE alone is estimated to be host to around 200 languages and cultures from around the world. And again, we are in the fortunate enough position to train most of these languages. We like to say that if the language exists on Earth, we can teach it. We've been fortunate enough to have a very rich pool of instructors and colleagues from around the world. And let's see how this worked for us. Now, I would like to dive right into it and discuss the importance that the month of March had, not only for us as an organization, but for a lot of our peers, a lot of our colleagues in both Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Fujairah, you name it, everywhere. I think we all very vividly remember when we realized that, you know, hold on, this actually might be pretty serious. And for me, this came on a Tuesday, if I remember correctly, when everything was very well, everything was going great, everything was pink, life was great. We had many courses, many big projects that we're working on. And then all of a sudden, we were informed that from the following day, we're not allowed to hold face-to-face classes anymore, right? And obviously this posed a number of challenges because, first of all, I don't think we were equipped, to be honest. I'm going to be very transparent during this webinar. I hope, Mohamed, you will be as well. And I expect your questions to be very transparent and direct as well. I don't think we were fully prepared to tackle this new method of delivery, of training at least. We had to adapt overnight. We had to come up with solutions, which we did. We switched all of our classroom-based courses to WebEx delivery. So the instructors were here at Eton Institute or in the comfort of their homes, as well as the students. But there was something hugely important missing. There was no more face-to-face interaction, right? Now, initially, when you hear about this, you say, you know, this shouldn't be that big of a deal. But in reality, I think us as a training provider, as well as our students as training subjects, had a very, not a very steep, but, you know, a fairly considerable learning curve to manage. I think virtual learning is definitely here to stay. And I'd like to share some more examples of what we experienced with some of our clients. Mohamed, do you have anything to add on this? By the way,
yes.
Sorry, before we proceed, I would like to mention that this webinar is bilingual. Now, I'm looking at the list of participants and the list of attendees we have here. And I know a lot of people their native language is Arabic, right? Now, of course, yes, English is the working language here. We all speak English, we all understand it, that's how we work. But we thought of doing something different for you today. And part of the content of this webinar will be in Arabic. So my colleague Mohamed will tackle a few topics in Arabic, some of them in English, some of them in Arabic. And I know he had his fair share of surprises when the lockdown came in. And I'd like him to share his experience on this front.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. طبعا اسمي محمد العطاونة. طبعا المستشار التعليمي في معهد إيتون، مواليد دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، ودارس في الحكومة والخاصة والجامعات في الدولة. أنا طبعا المسؤول في معهد إيتون على التعامل مع القطاع الحكومي والشبه حكومي وبعض من الخاص. طبعا نتعامل مع أغلب الوزارات والهيئات الحكومية في الدولة. أغلب الوزارات طبعا شهر 3 مر علينا في 2019، بداية أواخر 2019 وبداية 2020 كانت عندنا تدريبات كثيرة للحكومة، وأغلبهم كانوا متجهزين وجاهزين لإكسبو 2020. طبعا الدورات كلها توقفت في شهر 3 بناء على جائحة كورونا اللي صارت، واضطرينا نوقف الكلاسات الفيس تو فيس. طبعا تواصلنا مع الوزارات، وتواصلنا مع وزارة التربية والتعليم، وتواصلنا مع وزارة الصحة، وقالوا إن لازم نوقف الكلاسات الفيس تو فيس. فبناء عليه إحنا وقفنا الدورات، ولو إنه كان عندنا دورات كثير كبيرة أغلب الناس كانوا جاهزين لإكسبو. Yes, Tudor.
No, I think it's important to touch upon because, of course, the topic of our presentation today is really discussing language and communication in the workplace as a whole, but we see it more from a training delivery perspective, right? Now, I think training language and communication tackles a lot of the issues that matter with language and communication in general. And by this, I mean that we can make some very pertinent observations as to how we saw the transition to live online going. As I said, you know, different training places have adapted to different training tools, right? Us, for example, we got used very quickly to WebEx. We're now transitioning to a different tool called Blackboard Collaborate, which is specifically designed for online learning. And I think a question that everyone was asking is, why is there such a strong preference towards classroom-based learning here in the Middle East? Because let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, we were in the United States for a trade show, and everybody approaching us to speak to us was talking almost exclusively about online learning and live online learning and internet-based learning and self-study and so on. And again, we're a bit unprepared because it's a completely different mindset, right? Whereas when you come to the Middle East, when you come to Dubai, to Abu Dhabi, so on, there's a very strong preference towards doing things physically, doing things in person, even if it means learning, or if it means having a meeting, or if it means negotiating. It's all very in person, right? I think there are a number of reasons behind this. One of them being education and upbringing. I think right now we're dealing with a generation of adults and learners and working professionals and executives who, as they were coming up, as they were being educated, as they were going through school, this is how they did it, in person, with a pen, with a paper, with a book. Whereas now, very abruptly, we have to adapt to these new virtual environments. So I think the virtual environment is here to stay, and I think the next generation that's coming up now will be fully equipped, and fully comfortable to deal with this live online environment. I think this comes with a number of barriers, as Mohamed, you very well know. I think the most important one to mention would be the, in person, you have the ability to transfer what we call non-verbal cues, right? So you have facial expressions, which you notice much easier. Like right now, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. You all see me, right? But if you see me in person, it's easier to perceive the facial cues and the facial expressions and the micro expressions. It's much easier to pick up on them in person versus on camera, right? So this is one type of barrier which I think impacts organizations today. And I have clients who have, shared this with me. Another barrier I think would be the background noise, right? And improper virtual setups. Mohamed, how many meetings have you had where you had, either you or, the person you're talking to wasn't properly equipped for a virtual meeting?
I had a lot. And I've heard from my clients that they had a lot of issues regarding this.
So I think we all had them, right? I think I see Graham here in the attendees list. We often had these client meetings over Zoom, over MS Teams, and all of a sudden, right, what do you hear in the background? The dishwasher going or the washing machine is running, right? Because everybody was working from home. So we're all confined to these limitations, or we have children screaming, or we have dogs barking. So I think this is definitely, a barrier to this sort of virtual environments, whereas in person, I would make sure that there's no dogs barking. I think we also have to look at technical limitations. There are, you need a very good Wi-Fi connection. You need to make sure your laptop is up to par. There are no proxy servers. I know for sure that some of my clients, like when the lockdown happened, we were running a fairly large project, and the students had shared accommodation. So they were living in shared accommodations. So they had 8 or 9 people using the same Wi-Fi connection. And of course, this meant a huge barrier to us delivering the course effectively to these people. Mohamed, would you like to add anything about the learning barriers?
Yes, I'll add them, but in Arabic. Speak in Arabic.
Again, so I'm looking at the attendees list, and I'm seeing a lot of Arabic names, and I recognize quite a few. So please go ahead.
Yes. طبعا أكيد في الفيرتشوال ليرنينج طبعا له سيئاته وله مميزات أو تحديات خلينا نقول. طبعا تقدر تنقل في بعض المعلومات اللي تكون هي الغير لفظية، مثلا نقول تعابير الوجه. تعابير الوجه ممكن تكون في الفيرتشوال ليرنينج أو في التعليم الافتراضي يكون متأخرة، فما توصل تعابير كالشخص لما يكون امامك. في بعض مخارج الحروف ما تخرج مثلا مخارج الحروف صحيحه 100%، او ما تقدر تسمع مخارج الحروف صحيحه 100%. طبعا غير المشاكل طبعا الاصوات اللي حكى عنها تودر، اللي هي اصوات مثلا خلفيات، لما تكون في الفصل تكون الاصوات اقل، او الاحرى ما يكون في اصوات لان يكون في تركيز وتكون في مكان مهيئ للتدريب. اما في البيت ممكن يكون في اصوات طبعا تتاثر في المحيط اللي حولك، تكون اصوات اطفال، اصوات في الاغاني، اصوات اذا كنت في مكان معين. طبعا ومثل ما قال التكنيكال ديفيكولتيز اكيد طبعا هي مثلا ممكن يكون في عندك مشكله في السماعه، مشكله في المايك، لما تشغل السماعه لما تشغل المايك طبعا يكون في تاخير. وبس اكيد هذا مع الممارسه، يعني مع ممارسه الفيرتشوال ليرنينج اكيد تشوف ان الموضوع يسهل عليك مره على مره. يا صدر.
Now, I think it's important to also mention the positive aspects. You know, and this is the direction in which I want this webinar to go, in the sense that yes, it came very abruptly and unexpectedly. Yes, maybe not everybody was fully prepared, or maybe some people were not prepared at all. But I think we're definitely going in the right direction. So this is how I want this webinar to be shaped, sort of like not like a V, but more like a gentle U. So I think we started very rough, but I think we made serious improvements, not only us, but also our partners, our clients, pretty much any organization in the Middle East. So I want to mention also the positive aspects, because, and talking specifically about training delivery, you know, you look at transportation and logistics, people no longer need to get from point A to point B to deliver a course or to attend a course, right? And I think this can be one of the other reasons why people in the region prefer classroom-based training, or used to prefer classroom-based training, is that energy is so cheap, right? If I have to get from point A to point B, say in the United States, I have to fill the tank, I have to pay parking, I have so many expenses. Well, here, petrol is not that expensive, right? Parking is not that expensive. It will cost me my time getting from A to B. But now again, I don't have any of these expenses, right? So all of these considerations are cut out. So I think this is a huge advantage. Something else that we're looking at is saving on the cost of materials and printed resources. Like for us as a training provider, we're looking at materials, we're saying textbooks, you know, we're saying notebooks and so on. But any organization will also use printed resources all the time, right? And I think right now, this has gone down tremendously, and we're seeing more and more soft resources, electronic resources, and so on. And you know, one aspect would be that I would like to touch upon would be the priorities for organization right now post-COVID. And I think this is one of the main topics. One that I find most attractive about this webinar would be noticing the shifts in corporate behavior across industries in the Middle East, right? Like I said in the beginning, I'm going to be transparent, I'm going to be open, and I think a lot of our peers, a lot of our partners, a lot of our clients have made significant changes in their staff roster. I know for sure a lot of my acquaintances who were here in Dubai, some of them are not here anymore. So I think the structure of a lot of companies has changed. The workforce has been reduced in certain areas, in certain sectors. And so I think this reflects a lot on corporate behavior, and especially on how they tackle language and communication, not only training, but language and communication in general. Meaning that right now we have fewer people having more responsibilities. So for me as an organization, this means that the few people I have left, or the fewer people I have left, I have to elevate them. I have to make sure that they're up to standard, right? And we are seeing this 100% in corporate behavior, at least when it comes to training, right? Mohamed, do you have anything to add?
Yes, so basically I didn't talk about the positives of the virtual learning. So طبعا هتكلم عن ايجابيات التعليم الافتراضي. طبعا مثل ما تقدر حكى ان تكاليف المواصلات عندنا في الدوله وفي الخليج بشكل عام طبعا بسيطه، ما تكون تكاليف عاليه، فنفضل ان نحن نروح وناخذ الكلاس او التدريب التقليدي. اهم نقطه انا صراحه اشوف انه نقدر الشخص مثلا انه يتعلم من دون ما يسافر، يقدر يتعلم من كفاءات، يدخل كلاسات ناس كفئه في التدريب ويتعلم منهم اشياء ويقدر ياخذ شهادات وهو مش مسافر او هو مش في الدوله نفسها. في بعض الاشياء الثانيه مثل توفير التكاليف طبعا المطبوعه، صار كل شيء الحين رقمي، فتقدر تاخذ الكتب كلها رقميه، مش لازم انك تدفع عليها او انك موجوده رقميه. اولويات طبعا التعليم والتطوير، الهيئات والمؤسسات اللي اكيد حكى عنها تدر، هاي طبعا نفس ما هو قال he will be transparent and I will be transparent as well. نكون شفافين في الموضوع. طبعا بعد الجائحه لاحظنا انه في انخفاض عدد كبير في الايدي العامله، وهذا ما يدل فهو يدل على طبعا زياده المسؤوليات على الموظفين الباقيين في التدريب. طبعا ما كان في اي توقف تدريبات بشكل تام، بس طبعا اكيد كان في هناك اعاده تخطيط البرامج التدريبيه للسنه القادمه وفي نفس السنه نفسها. فاغلب التدريبات الحين الماخوذه هي التدريبات الخاصه او الشبه خاصه اللي يكونوا 2 maximum. Yes, Tudor.
Now, going back on the classroom-based preferences, right, and on the preference of people to generally interact with other people face to face. I think we've all read hundreds of articles online about, the psychological imbalance happening right now and people crying out for help because obviously you're not used to this lack of human interaction, or you're used to human interaction that all of a sudden is cut short, right? And I wanted to mention something very interesting that we did. Well, we actually started this project in 2017, but really we finished it last year in 2019. We always customize our learning experiences quite a lot, right? Because when you're working in corporate training, to be honest, there's no 2 projects which are alike, right? So very, very rarely you have an off-the-shelf solution, one size fit all. So we run a lot of learning preferences surveys, and this square, this inverted square that you're seeing on the screen right now, is the result of this endeavor which we've carried out over the past couple of years. So this is data from 5,000 regional language learners, and it's meant to give us an understanding of how they prefer to learn, right? Because different people prefer to learn differently, right? Me, for example, I need a book. I need to see a book. I learn best by reading. Mohamed learns best by hearing, so he's an oral learner. Different people are visual learners, kinesthetic, so they need to touch things, they need activities, they need classmates, they need to compare, and so on. And all of a sudden, all of these things are gone, right? Not that we have less of them, but they're gone, right? So now we have a webcam and you interact with someone who is setting someone else completely. And I think it's remarkable, and this is why I'm always fascinated with this industry of learning and development, that we managed to adapt so quickly. And I see not only us, but a lot of our peers, I see using creative resources online, adapting online materials, adapting ebooks, and so on. So I think the key word here is certainly adaptability. Looking at this graphic, I'll be happy to share the data of this survey with you further. Whoever would like to get in touch after that. Another point I'd like to touch upon is the flattening economic space, and this is a notion that I think I heard when I was in high school for the first time. I didn't pay too much attention. I read the book called "The World is Flat," and that just started coming back to me in the recent months. Why? Because first of all, I'm looking at us, but then I'm also looking at a lot of my friends, a lot of my clients, a lot of my peers. And I think if before March, if there's something very good to come out of this, I think before March, we were geographically limited to doing business as a company with other organizations based here in the UAE, right? So I think one of the good things that came out of this was the fact that companies worldwide are now not limited to their geographical bounds anymore. And I think a very good example for this would be the fact that we are now doing business with Saudi companies that we never thought of approaching before. Why? Very simply, because the teacher is here and the students are there. It's the same thing as if the students are next door, right? So for us, this worked very well. We work with, we're fortunate enough to work with pretty large accounts, auto manufacturers, electronics, and so on, who have branches here and as well in the KSA, and they were kind enough to recommend us. So I think not only for us in our industry, but across industries and across sectors, we're seeing this sort of international cooperation and international business, and this is where language and communication comes particularly important. And as a precursor to this, we did a bit of research, because we really like research here at Eton Institute. So we asked our students and our partners, we listed a few skills and we asked them, which one of these skills do you feel require immediate attention for you to perform more effectively at work, right? So this means interacting with your current colleagues, the one that you knew pre-COVID. This means interacting with new clients, with people situated in other geographies. And interestingly enough, majority of them said that they would like to improve their listening, right? Right now, you're all listening to me. Maybe you're hearing me well, maybe you're not hearing me well. If you are in person, you'd be able to interrupt me. You'd be able to, I don't know, pick up on non-verbal cues much quicker. So we've actually put together a course which helps people develop all of these areas, right? Use better email etiquette, prepare an online presentations, learn expressions that people usually use in online meetings, apply correct grammar, and so on. Very interesting products and very interesting, definitely very interesting times. Now, I forgot to say something in the beginning, so I'm going to say it now before we, we come close to the conclusion. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, please write them in the chat box. As further on, we're heading towards the Q&A sessions. But before we reach the conclusions, Mohamed, if you have anything else to add on any of the points.
Of course. طبعا الاشياء اللي احنا صراحه استغربنا واستفدنا منها في الالتزام في البيت. طبعا بعد الالتزام في البيت لاحظنا ان في تواصل بعض الشركات من خارج الامارات، يعني مش بس من الامارات، من السعوديه، من البحرين، من الكويت، من عمان، طبعا يطلبون التدريبات اللي هي مهنيه والتدريبات اللغويه. واضح ان زياده نسبيه عن السنه اللي فاتت تقريبا كانت 25%. فاصبحوا طبعا متفتحين لفكره الدراسه عبر الانترنت اكثر، والاستفادة من الكفاءات الموجودة في خارج دولتهم. طبعا هذا شيء ضروري. فهم اطلعوا على أي الدول المزدهرة، مثلا دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وفي بعض الشركات اوريدي لها فروع خارج الإمارات، فتواصلوا مع التدريبات أو قسم التدريب عندهم وطلبوا أن الكفاءات أو شركات التدريب شركات التدريب المفيدة أنهم يتواصلوا معه. Yes, Tudor.
All right. I wanted to add, before heading into conclusions and Q&A, regarding corporate behavior, right, and corporate spending behavior, because I said earlier that, yes, we have fewer people who have slightly more responsibilities. So we have to train them. We have to make sure that they're up to par with these new responsibilities. And I think a notable point would be that before March, as a language training institute, right, we were seeing projects we were training groups of people, right, groups of 12 people, 15 people, groups of 20 people. We were having lectures and so on. So it was more of a group effort across the board, whereas now, I wouldn't say training budgets are cut, right? Training budgets are roughly the same level, but the way this money is being spent is very different, right? So now we're having private tuition, we're having semi-private tuition, which has grown quite a lot since March. We're still seeing groups, we're still seeing we're still seeing groups and workshops and so on, but the bulk of training right now is pretty much in private and semi-private training, which I think goes to back up what I was saying earlier about the not diminishing, but reduction, concentration of the workforce, if you will, right? Now, I think it's safe enough. I'm just checking the Q&A window, and we also have quite a few other private messages with questions coming in. Thank you very much. I wanted to say that I think my personal opinion and professional opinion is that the key word here is optimism. I think the new reality and the new way of communicating and using language, not only in a workplace environment, but also, let's face it, private environment, is here to stay. And I don't think anyone knows if it's going to go away soon, if it's here to stay, but I personally think it's here to stay. I also think that humanity as a whole has shown a tremendously steep learning curve and evolution curve over the past 200 years, right? So I think shifting our language and communication and interactions in the end into virtual environments will not be a barrier, but will just encourage us to do more and more and achieve more and more. I think every day we see more innovative solutions coming out to help us with this new way of communicating. And I think although there are many unknowns, I think the keyword is optimism. Yeah. Mohamed, any conclusions from your side?
Yes, of course. طبعا نحن متفائلين بهذا التطور أكيد، لأنه هي نقلة نوعية في مجال التعليم، وهذا بدأ يصير التدريب الاعتيادي يعني، والناس بدأت تتقبل وتستفيد من هذا الشيء بالشكل الصحيح. طبعا بتفاؤل في دراسات أظهرت أن نحن نمر في أشد مراحل التقدم التكنولوجي على مدى ال 200 سنة اللي فاتوا، والحمد لله بدأنا نتكيف ونتعود على هذا التطور. فهذا شيء يعني كثير جميل صراحة.
All right. Now, we have a few questions. All right. Now, as usual, we're very happy to talk to our peers, our clients, our partners, our random spectators. I forgot to say, of course, in the beginning, thank you very much to Dubai Knowledge Park for putting this session together. By looking at the list, I see many peers based also here in Knowledge Park. If you'd like to get in touch, this is how you can do it, displayed on the screen for both of our campuses in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We have a question from Richu Thomas. He's asking us, which language course is gaining popularity during COVID, and has the trend remained unchanged? Mohamed, what do you think? Which language course is gaining popularity during COVID?
I guess in terms of languages, it's English. The English language is basically still a trend. Usually, a lot of people are asking for English, but there were like inquiries about Hebrews as well.
Hebrew?
Yes.
All right. I think this is a good point, right? Because we are indeed lately receiving quite a few inquiries for Hebrew language, but I think this really has to do with the recent geopolitical events rather than COVID. Traditionally speaking, Thomas, English and Arabic have been our most popular languages, as you can expect. And when you say English, you mean you break it down into a variety of English topics. You have accent reduction, you have speaking only, you have IELTS preparation, you have business English, English for specific purposes, for real estate, for law professionals, legal health professionals, so on. I actually managed, I actually noticed a trend. I think we were discussing in our management meeting last week. German is actually growing in popularity immensely, right? Immensely. Now, I don't know if this is a trend of saying, oh, people are looking to learn German to go somewhere, to go to Germany or not. But a lot of our students, for example, they come to us to get to upper intermediate German. So this would allow us to go to university in Germany. Right? So there can be a number of reasons, but I would say the one that's picking up ground definitely during COVID is German, right? Which I think might be impacted by COVID. I see another question which says, if possible, please answer in Arabic. Can you elaborate, Mohamed? Please, can you elaborate more on what kind of training are government organizations taking nowadays?
طبعا اغلب التدريبات الحكوميه تكون اللغه الانجليزيه، اكثرها اللغه الانجليزيه. في بعض الهيئات الحكوميه حابه انها توصل بعض الاشخاص بحيث انهم تستفيد من خبراتهم كمسؤولين، بس لازم يكون عندهم اللغه الكافيه، يقدر يوصل الى مستوى معين من اللغه عشان يقدر يتواصل مع مثلا اشخاص خارج الدوله او اشخاص مش من نفس مش ما يتكلمون عربي بشكل عام. ففي بعض الناس تاخذ الانجليش والبزنس انجليش ويطورون طبعا من بدايه الليفل الاول من الستارتر الى البيجنر، المنتري، انترميديت، يوصل للادفانس. في بعض الشركات مثل الادنوك تفضل هذا الشيء، في بعض الشركات الثانيه مثل بعض الوزارات تطلب لغات ثانيه، مثلا خلينا نقول USAID دبلوماتيك تاخذ اللغه العربيه مثلا، خلينا نقول مثلا في بعض الشركات او الوزارات تاخذ ليفلات وتاخذ ليفل كم هائل بحيث انهم حابين انهم الاشخاص هذول يتعلمون اللغه بالشكل الصحيح بحيث انهم يقدرون يتواصلون مع الاشخاص خارج او داخل البلد. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Another question that I see here is how do you determine workforce readiness across different sectors in terms of communication and language proficiency? All right, so how do you determine workforce readiness from a language perspective? All right, this actually, it's a very pertinent question because we had different ways of doing this pre-COVID, and we have different ways of doing it now. Meaning, and going back to what Mohamed was saying earlier about government training and English, we used to go into organizations before and we would do a placement test option, which would be paper-based, which we would then collect and correct. We would have assessors going in organizations in person to do verbal assessments. And of course, this now has moved to online environments. This comes with ups and downs, to be honest, because you don't always have the guarantee that it's that person taking the placement test that you expect to be. And this happens a lot, not a lot, right? But this happens every now and then, let's say, with people who think that they're being assessed for English or other languages, and their job will be impacted by the result, right? Which is never the case. We're simply doing this to evaluate their readiness, to see what kind of courses we need to implement to make them better. So if it's all online, we don't really know if it's that person or if it's their friend or their cousin doing the placement test, and that's where issues kind of start to arise. But we're working around it. It's a very good question. I encourage everyone, again, if you have any questions, write them in the chat sections, in the Q&A. We're still having participants coming in. This is very impressive. I didn't know we're so popular. Thank you very much for everyone who's joining in later. The session is also being recorded by our friends at Dubai Knowledge Park, and I think it will be available for viewing afterwards. Okay. Mariam is asking us, do you think it's safe to take the IELTS test now? Is there a chance to get the virus from test paper touched by other people? All right. Well, we used to be an IELTS testing center up until not long ago. We work with IDP, one of the co-owners of the IELTS test, quite closely. I know for sure that right now they've implemented in the UAE a solution called computer-based IELTS, CBI, computer-based IELTS. And I know they disinfect everything. I think they resumed IELTS sessions since July, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm sure it's very safe, and I don't think there are any dangers. I'm not sure if the paper-based option is still happening because of safety reasons in place, but I know for sure that the computer-based one is happening, and it's a very solid test, right? Okay, we're seeing Mahmoud is asking, some people like myself are better in listening and speaking than reading and writing. Is this common? Do you see this in other people? Mohamed, what do you think? Would you like to answer in Arabic? So some people are better in listening and speaking than reading and writing. Is this a common issue?
Exactly. I'd say I would set myself as an example. For example, my speaking is way better than my writing and reading. Now, what I'm, for example, trying to improve on all the skills, like we have reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So yes, this is normal. Some people, depends what you practice. If you practice speaking a lot, you'll be able to speak fluently. If you practice writing a lot, you might lack on speaking. You might lack on listening. So what I would suggest is make sure that it's normal, first of all, and make sure try to improve all the skills altogether.
Yeah, I think I can add to that. I can connect this question to the title of our discussion today. I've been with Eden Institute for just a little over 6 years now, and I see this quite a lot, right? So Mahmoud, it's a very common issue, not an issue, to be honest, because it's not an issue. But different people have been exposed to different mediums of, English-speaking mediums. Some people have grown up watching American movies with subtitles, without subtitles. Some people listen to English music more than others. So you're exposed to English from a variety of environments that you don't even realize it, right? And this might sometimes be more than what you're getting in school. So you have the 4 skills: reading, writing, speaking, listening, and sometimes the reading and writing falls behind because what you're doing in school is not really as intense and as ample as what you have in your private life, right? So you have music, you have movies, you have so on. I can give you an example. When we were growing up, we were watching these French cartoons, and I didn't even know I speak French until I got to school, and we had French in school, and my teacher was, this is amazing. So you never really know how you end up picking up these things. Okay, any other questions? All right, very interesting. Do you think quality accreditations and audit standards for organizations are still relevant? I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this question. If quality accreditations are still relevant, I think it's a very pertinent question. I was reading the other day an article saying how all the ISO certifications and all the audit standards are being revised now in light of COVID. And I think ISO is giving a certification that you're COVID safe as an institution as well. So I think this is changing as well, right? It's very exciting because we're living very exciting times where we don't know what's going to happen, but we're sure that we're going to tackle it, right? I'll give you an example related to quality accreditations. We have our own quality accreditation called Equals, right? And the courses, basically they go into language schools all across the world, and they certify them. They look at instructors, they look at curriculum, they look at materials, books, and so on, everything from A to Z, a very thorough audit, and they give them this quality accreditation. Now, they never had a quality accreditation for online courses, right? So for them, this is completely new territory, but now they're working on it. They're revising their standards, and we're aligning to that. So it's all shifting, but I think it's getting in a very nice place shortly. Yeah. If we have any other questions? Mohamed, do you have questions?
No.
But
I'm very optimistic about where is this going.
All right, well, hold on. Here's one from someone else called Mohamed. So most people prefer hard copy resources, printed material, hard copy resources. Do you think we will ever switch back to hard copies, or is soft copy here to stay forever? Oh, another very good question, and another one which I would like to have a crystal globe. But personally, I think, because honestly, I prefer hard copies as well, right? Okay, full transparency. I learned German here at Eton Institute, and I used the hard book, and I also used the soft copy. And just between you guys and me, I prefer the hard copy, right? But I didn't like the original soft book we had, right? But now we have these interactive materials. You can actually fill in boxes and stuff and do everything very interactively. You're not simply using a book that was designed for classroom use. You're not using it online. You're actually using materials that have been designed to be used online. So I think this makes a huge difference. And extrapolating for this, I think we can go across industries and across businesses, across sectors, and say that all materials and all resources eventually will become exciting and interesting. Especially now when people have, as they say, a shorter attention span. I see nobody here in this webinar has a short attention span, because I see the numbers are still growing up for some reason. I don't know, should we keep going? Should we invent another topic? But people nowadays, I was reading a study, people nowadays have a shortening attention span, right? And this also plays a part in online tuition and in online courses, because instead of being focused for 45 minutes to 1 hour to your session, to your lesson, to your meeting, to your conference call, you're bombarded from left, from right with Skype, Messenger, you know, Mozilla, Netflix, Fortnite, I don't know, whatever else you have on your laptop or on your computer. So they're all fighting for your attention, and it's very difficult to stay in this space where you're supposed to be productive, I suppose. So to answer your question, I don't know if hard copy is coming back. I'm confused right now. I don't know if I want it to come back or if I don't want it to come back. All right. I don't see any other questions. All right. So again, on the website, on the screen right here, this is how you can get in touch with us. This is how you can get in touch with me, with Mohamed. Or much more simple, just head on to etoninstitute.com. This is a snapshot of our website. We have a lot of interesting offers and promotions going on, and specialty courses all the time. And I don't know, I think that's about it from my side. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I don't see any other questions. If anybody has anything else to ask, please do it now or forever hold your peace. No, don't hold your peace. You have all the time to ask us. But yeah, please go ahead. We'll just leave this run another 2 minutes. If anybody has any other questions, or if not, Mohamed, if you have any other mentions.
Yes, of course. First of all, I would like to thank everyone here joining our webinar. أشكر جميع طبعا الحاضرين على الويبينار، وأخص لي أشكر طبعا مجمع دبي للمعرفة، طبعا السماح لنا بمشاركة خبراتنا وما قبل وما بعد جائحة كورونا أكيد.
All right.
Any questions?
So, thank you everyone for tuning in, for bearing with us. We hope to see you again very soon. We're preparing some very interesting other topics to discuss with our peers, to share with the world our findings, our observations. Thank you very much, Dubai Knowledge Park, for putting this together, and we hope to see you again next time. Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
See you.